Yeah, it's time to T-build with Ben. I love team building. Building is fun. Team build with Ben because he is bald. Hey Playmore fans, welcome to the week 6 team builder as we come back from a very unfortunate loss to say the least. Just a little recap of last week. I waited 40 minutes for my opponent to start our match and then I got haxed out. It's unfortunate that we needed to bring Hurricane that game, but we needed it over Air Slash. Everyone can tell me that's why you don't run Hurricane. I preach that more than anyone. But this is one of the matchups where I definitely needed it over Air Slash. So Air Slash wasn't going to cut it at the end of the day anyways, in that specific scenario. So, I mean, between the Para on Zama, the 4 rolls instead of 5 on Bullet Seed, the Hurricane miss, the roll with Rock Tomb because it didn't kill. Unless he had a ridiculous amount of attack investment. He got like max roll possible. Because I mean, no attack investment never killed Moltres from where it was at. I didn't even do that calc until post game. But that was interesting. Because he still would outsped the next turn even after the speed drop. And Hurricane would have still been in range. But it is what it is. And then the last one was... What was the other thing that was unfortunate? I guess just not getting the flinch. Yeah. Just have it go in my favor. And it is what it is. And people could say I got the flame body and stuff, but the flame body was punishment for a bad move from my opponent. There was no reason to click U-turn there with Galar Zapdos. I had no Brave Bird switch in. Even if they got burned after Brave Birding into Moltres, they would have 2-KO'd it because it wasn't that bulky and Galar Zapdos is a menace. So, bad play got punished. Just all my good plays also got punished. So. But we unfortunately got that loss. It was only 0-1, but at the end of the day, you know, I'd rather just have a win, plain and simple. We really want to be 5-3 going into the end of the season and for playoffs, but we're looking to bounce back and hopefully win out for the rest of the season. So, that being said, week 6, we're facing King. Plain and simple name. I'll be the judge of that. And and King is apparently a longtime viewer of my channel, not just Play More, so I do appreciate him for that, and I'm looking forward to this game for that reason. He's got a pretty interesting team, man. First and foremost, Golden Ghost, so that's a pretty, like, decent Zamazenta check. It kind of just doesn't allow me to be Iron Defense Body Press. I really have to be, like, max attack investment and Howl and everything if I want to work Zama this week, just to really capitalize on those crunches and everything. Other than that, of course, it just can't be statused in general. It can block Rapid Spin from Blastoise, but luckily we do have Tidy Up from Mousehold if we wanted to bring Hazard Removal, which can't. It's like one of the only few forms of Hazard Removal that doesn't get blocked by Golden Go, which is awesome. Apart from like Mold Breaker, Defog, and stuff like that. But Golden Go hits like an absolute truck. Ghost plus Steel's an amazing typing. Very strong special attack stat to pair with that Make It Rain, which is just an absurd move that they gave it. So we have ways to work around it. I think it is 100% forced into a defensive role at least, mainly for Zamazenta. It also helps against Breloom and Gyarados, however, and of course Mousehold. So all those reasons leads to bulky Goldango. If they bring offensive, that's better for me, because you'll find out why. Next up is another offensive threat in Latios. They have a lot of offensive threats for their top tiers at least. Latios is very difficult for me to switch into. Unfortunately, Unaware Clefable does not help with special defense drops from Luster Purge, so that's a big issue for my team, and in general, it's pretty good at spamming attacks considering one of my special defensive walls is Muck. Which doesn't help out there. And Clefable, honestly, if it comes this week, it really wants to be physically defensive, not specially defensive with Covert Cloak in order to beat a Latios. I'd rather take on the other threats, which you can see on screen, which is pretty obvious. So Latios can be a little bit annoying, but we have really good ways of revenging it. So that's why I'm like not too worried. If I just play more offensive around Latios, play my sacks correctly, I think I'll be okay. If anything, Latios was more scary previously because of just better setup opportunity. Latios is really just relying on that breaking, so if I'm able to position correctly, I can already limit the amount of kills it's going to get in the first place. Ursaluna, insane Guts Breaker. Honestly, I don't think it has a good matchup into me, however. Like, Guts is a decent justification, but like I have a lot of things that outspeed, 2 waters, and just so many things put in the hurt against Ursaluna. Like, I think they could justify like a bulky assault vest with bulletproof overguts. Bulletproof not only prevents focus blast if I want to get greedy with Darkrai over Ice Beam or something like that, but it walls both Bullet Seed and Seed Bomb from Breloom, so it deals with my grass stabs there. So if I were to be locked into a move, I would immediately just be punished. And they would get that information because I either go for close combat the next turn on it, or I would switch out. So they can work around that pretty well. That's really like the only thing where I could see merit with Ursaluna, apart from like just Guts breaking with like Trick Room Diancie or something. Otherwise, I think there's a lot better Pokemon for him in this specific matchup. And then Terrakion. Terrakion is a Terra Captain. Yeah, a Terra Captain. That is stupid. So Terrakion has Terra Fighting, Terra Fire, and Terra Fairy. Fortunate, he does not have Terra Rock. I think if you have Terra Terrak, you should get Terra into both stabs because both your stabs are already really strong. Plus, if you have Terra Rock, you can want to run a 100% accurate Rock type move, which is very solid there. It's only base 80 compared to Stone Edge 100 and the high crit, but 80% accurate versus 100% accurate is a pretty big deal, especially when you're already doing 2 times for that damage boost because of Terra. So, in terms of Terra for Terrak, though, I mean, if it's Choice Scarf, more than likely it will be Terra Fighting for like Choice Scarf close combat endgame. Otherwise, if it's Choice Ban or any other set, then it's going to rotate between Fire or Fairy. Realistically, I think Fairy is the best into me, especially if you can just obviously make sure you have plenty of bulk for like Darkrai's random Sludge Bomb. That's more than likely to carry for you. But Justified's also pretty annoying with that Terra aspect when going up against Darkrai, so that's something to note there. But it's very hard. The opportunity for Terra is pretty scary in this game, not gonna lie. Urshifu Rapid Strike. This is something I was like originally worried about, but the more I looked into it and the more built my team, I'm like, okay, maybe it's not something I'm really that scared about. It does have Thunder Punch for Gyarados, so I want to throw that out there. It can also hit Blastoise with it if it really wanted to over close combat and stuff like that, so we could see a bulk up set with that variance. Obviously, if he's Choice Scarf, he can be Choice Scarf Surging Strikes in order to crit through all of Zamazenta's defense boosts or anything along those lines. And at the end of the day, you can always be Protective Pads or Punching Glove in order to avoid any Rocky Helmet, any Flame Body from Moltres, any stuff like that that could otherwise go my way. So, but Urshifu is a very strong Pokemon in general and something I still need to respect. Fessendipity, something's interesting. I haven't really faced it much, and I think he's brought it every week, so I'm kind of expecting it this week. It has some decent value into my team. Toxic Chain can be pretty annoying, and it's great switching to Clefable. But like outside of that, it can switch into Darkrai pretty nicely. And then it can also deal with Breloom stabs. And it can like switch in decently to Mach and things along those lines. So its natural special defensive bulk is pretty helpful overall here. And then it has Roost for longevity. U-turn pivoting with Toxic Chain can just be pretty annoying. I think that's why he's brought it every time. And then next up we have Cyclizar, an old bubby, a bad bubby. I don't think Cyclizar is as good as everyone makes it out to be. Obviously, Fast and Regenerator is great, but it's like, you're so frail, man. You are so frail. So, I mean, it's like his only form of hazard removal, and it is like pretty decent speed, but it's still slower than both my Zamazenta and Darkrai, so I would be really surprised if it's brought. In general, I think my team is very strong into it. But if they're worried about hazards and they can't just pack heavy-duty boots on a few things, then we would see Cyclizar. I think that's the only way we see it. Not worried about a setup variant because of obvious unaware Clefable. I mean, even like bulky Blastoise can deal with it. Risk getting Flame Body from Moltres, things along those lines. So, Diancie. Diancie is a great draft league Pokemon. If you ever get the chance to use Diancie and you haven't yet, I highly recommend it. Very versatile between just a bulky wall that it can be, a consistent stealth rocker, or a Trick Room Breaker. With Meteor being this generation, it's even better. Body press with what is its special move? Diamond Storm, where you get the defense boost and then you get the body press after. That's really reliable if you get the boost. So, I mean, it's a great Pokemon, especially in this generation. It's really solid. Does not get the option to Terra, luckily. This is their best Darkrai check, without a doubt. I do have plenty of Pokemon that are able to punish it, though. Zamazenta being the obvious one with the Steel, which is 4 times super effective against Diancie. I have my Double Water. I have Sandy Shocks. I have Breloom. So it's like I have plenty of ways to deal with Diancie. But it's still very likely to come just because of the reliable Stealth Rock setting it can do and being a switch into Darkrai. Because it does have either the Stab Moonblast or like Body Press sets in order to deal with Darkrai that way. It can even be like Training Kiss in order to get health recovery or something like that. Or it can set up Trick Room for either Ursaluna or Brutbonic, which could be a little bit scary. So next we have Brute Bonnet, and that's like Terra Captain that I really just don't expect because I think Terra Tarak is just better here. I think they use Brute Bonnet a bit though, and it has like some possibility for being brought against me. I think it's Terra Dark, Terra Fire, and Terra Electric. Terra Electric being the best just to help out against Gyarados and Blastoise. I think that's just the main reason for it at the end of the day that would be brought. Also helps against Moltres potentially. But that's good value against like my like mid-tier sweepers and just like my waters in general. And my waters are pretty good into him. So if he wanted to respect it, I could see Brute Bonnet being brought. But I mean, I haven't faced it in a mock, so we'll just have to see. Spore is not really something I'm worried about against this thing. It is pretty bulky and it has a pretty nice attack stat, but in general, between like Moltres, Breloom, Clefable, and Zamazenta, like defensively checking it is not that bad. So Quagsire is actually very interesting because they also have Unaware, just like her own Clefable, and it can be very strong for a physical defensive set this week, purely to pair with Goldango to always check Zamazenta. Now, if they feel like they're confident with just Goldango, then that's fine. But another bulky, unaware Quag with Rocky Helmet can also deal with Mousehold. You can catch like Breloom if I don't have Seed Bomb or something like that, I guess. But mainly also potentially Gyarados, which is a big factor there. And you can also be like Rock Tomb, so you can avoid Taunt from Gyarados and still lower its speed. You have then Rock Tomb from Moltres as well if you just want to be Earthquake, Rock Tomb, Recover, Spikes, for example. I think that's a pretty solid set. And then lastly, they have Cacturn. Really don't understand the Cacturn pickup, especially when you already have Brute Bonnet and it's not a Terra Captain. But I do know he made changes after this week, so I think those changes are better for his team, including getting Terra Rock on Terrakion, so at least I didn't have to face it. Alright, I took a lot of time on that, so let's just get into our team and everything. For what I want to bring, what I want to win with, what I want to do. Overall, this is a very hyper-offensive build. I went into this build knowing that King hates facing like bulky teams / stall. He also faced 2, and then he also faced, was it Crep or Maki? I think it was Maki. And they had a very bulky team as well. And he complained about it in the general chat, so I very much expect, you know, although they used like a bulky Pheasantipede, I think every week, I think they kind of just build around a balanced mindset, more towards an offensive with the rest of the team. Only like maybe 2 bulky Pokemon, and the rest pretty offensive. And I know my hyper offense can really break through his team, so I'm kind of just capitalizing on that. If they bring a more bulky team, it can be a little bit harder to break through, but I have good outs to it still. So that being said, first thing is Blossom the Zamazenta. Still not a great matchup just because of Goldango, but I found a way to work around it, so we're going to go through that slowly. But we have Hal just to get the attack raise and really help us break through Goldango. Obviously, it doesn't matter for Fizdef Unaware Quagsire, which can sit in front of us for a little bit, but luckily at close combat we'll be doing heavily damage, and with Unaware, the drops from my close combat don't matter. But in general, like once they lose that Goldango or that Quagsire, they really have no checks to this thing. And it's an absolute menace into their team, especially at +1. Heavy Slam plus close combat alone really like just destroys their team, in all honesty. And Crunches, of course, is needed for that Goldango. I'm still going to click Heavy Slam against Latios because it does more than Crunch. And then I have close combat at least for the Urshifu and stuff like that as well. So very solid in this game. The game plan is to like use it early on, howl up, beat through the Goldango. I know I will get Thunder Waved. I know it will happen. However, as long as I can still break through, I beat the Goldango if they opt to stay in, which is huge because later on I have a Healing Wish Clef, which we'll go over in a little bit. Then I Healing Wish Zamazenta back up. Paralysis is gone. I'm back to full health. Thus, we're able to break through the rest of the team, and if they don't have that Quagsire additionally as well, Zamazenta can just win. And even if they have the Quagsire, I have 2 main Pokemon that can threaten it pretty well. But next up, we're going right there to our main top tier in Darkrai. Blackbeard is carrying Life Orb with 4 attacks. I do hate bringing Life Orb. I don't think it's a good item. However, I need specific damage rolls in this game, specifically against Fezandipiti. If they opt to not bring Diancie, or if it's just like HP and more offensive for like Trick Room or something like that, then I'm still doing decent damage. Originally, I had Nightshade over Nightshock. Nightshade over Psyshock to do a larger percentage to Diancie. Since Diancie only has base 50 HP, with max HP, it's doing 33% consistently with Nightshade, where that's good, reliable chip. Obviously, they can have lefties and things along those lines, but at the end of the day, special defensive Diancie can kind of sit in front of Darkrai, but I want to be able to punish a special defensive Fezandipiti, which has base 125 special defense. Its physical defense is a little bit lower, so we're having Psychic and Psyshock. Either way, I'm clicking Psyshock against Fezandipiti, just because its base special is just too high. But Psychic is better against Terrakion and Urshifu, so I can maybe get them in a false sense of I have no moves that are going to kill them, and then I click Psychic the next turn instead, and I'm able to pick it up. But specifically, one of the things I'm looking for is if Spikes are up, because I am going to bring Sandy Shocks. Fezandipiti comes in, I might see Boots, I might not. If it takes Ship, I note of it. Either way, even at 100%, an Ice Beam into a Psyshock will always kill Fezandipiti. If they're specially defensive, Ice Beam's not going to do as much, but they have no physical defense investment. So Psyshock is going to do like minimum 85 and just blow them backwards. The only thing like I know that has potential is they really like super effective berries on a lot of their builds in the past, is what I've noticed. So if they are Pyapa Berry on Fezandipiti purely for Darkrai, then I'm still going to live a Moonblast from it after 2 Life Orb hits. If we get Toxic Chain, then that's unfortunate, but once again, I still have the Healing List as an option for Darkrai if I don't want to use it on Zamazenta. So we're going to be able to live that way. And luckily, even if they were to get Hazards up, Healing Wish activates before you take Hazard damage, so that's big there. But in general, Dark Pulse plus Ice Beam is really strong into breaking for the rest of their team. And just Psychic for those specific Pokemon of Fezandipiti and their fighting types. Breloom. I was told Breloom looks bad in this matchup. I disagree. I think it's very strong. Voice Band Mach Punch already does like a minimum of 35% to Latios. That's all I need to see, because it's like, that's a main resist, so close combat's doing like close to 80 or like 75. And then Mach Punch can literally pick it off the very next time that it's in, which is just huge. One downfall is obviously I'm not loaded dice, so I could just get 2 Bullet Seeds each time, but you always run Bullet Seed over Seed Bomb as long as you're Technician, because even if you get 2 Bullet Seeds, it's only 5 base power weaker than Seed Bomb. So as soon as you get 3, you already exceed what you would get out of Seed Bomb. So that's why it's more worth there. Bullet Seed can be walled once again by Bulletproof Ursaluna, so I have to be cautious of that. But in general, Close Combat is just really strong in their team. And if they try and use their physically defensive Goldango, and this somehow gets in the game before Zamazenta, I can pick it off with 2 Bulldozes, because I will guarantee outspeed no matter what with the defense drop. And then if they are max defense, we're still picking up the 2-hit KO there. Bulldoze is also nice against the Fezandipiti that naturally walls my stabs. So have to be cautious if Lottie is considered in that mix, obviously. But outside of that, it's looking very strong for those reasons. So I expect to be able to break through his Bolt pretty easily. And then next we have Robin, or Clefable. We have to be max physical defense with Rocky Helmet this week. Unfortunately, we have to, purely for Tarak plus Urshifu. Main reason is Choice Scarf Terrakion can easily like sweep through the rest of my team. Urshifu, not as easily, but can still be very good. I could also face like a Trailblazer Urshifu and like SD and everything along those lines. I just need to respect these Pokemon, because double fighting is very strong. I don't see it enough on teams, so I'm happy to see that a draft in this league has it, because I think fighting types are easily one of the best offensive Pokemon in draft league format, apart from like ice and flying probably. Very strong there. Moonblast is pretty spammable in their team. Obviously they have Pheasantipity and Golden Go. Golden Go I'm not going to be able to touch with any of my status moves, so I debated being like Knockoff, I debated being Misty Terrain, so then I go into Zamazenta, and then I can't get paralyzed, but it's like, at the end of the day, I wanted to make more progress, and I felt like Healing Wish was better, because Healing Wish can also support Darkrai and Zamazenta towards the later part of the game, because I can play them a little bit riskier compared to Misty Terrain, which is just helping me with those immediate turns with Zamazenta. And then additionally, it's like, I'm also having Gyarados, which is off the ground, so that can still get statused. It's just like a little awkward things with that. So I debated it, but at the end of the day, without Extender, I didn't value it as much. So I went with Healing Wish over Misty Terrain for that reason. And Rocky Helmet Chip is just very important to their team. And I went with Thunder Wave over Knockoff purely because there were a few games where I gave Terrakion a justified boost, and even though I'm on a Wereclef, if it were to break through, get a crit with Stone Edge, whatever it might be, then it's very difficult for the rest of my team, so I just wanted to keep that in mind. Additionally, Thunder Wave just gives me better speed control to where if I'm still facing something with a Choice Scarf, I'm getting almost the same result as Thunder Wave and Knockoff, without specifically having to risk that once again against the Terrakion. The next, we have our main win con. This swept multiple teams from my mocks, and that is Gyarados. This is honestly probably Gyarados' last chance to prove something for me. I think it's like kind of difficult for it to shine on this team, but in general it can still be a decent Terra Captain. It's just like 81 speed at the end of the day really doesn't cut it with power creep in this generation, even when you're getting +1 with Dragon Dance, because there's so many Choice Scarfers that can outspeed you. And you're also really relying on Terra Flying. Like, some of the other Terras are like okay, but in general Terra Flying with the +2 is just so much better. And then Terra Blast with Earthquake or Waterfall can typically just do it against the other things that are checking the with the flying resist and everything like that. So, but we're very bulky with Adamant Nature, Leftovers, and Substitute. This is to deal with Quagsire. Like I said before, I really expect a Rock Tomb because Taunt Gyarados is just free. It's absolutely free against Quagsire, and if that's going to be your check for Gyarados, then you should respect the idea of Taunt and have Rock Tomb. And in general, Substitute on Gyarados lets us also beat Gholdengo because we can't Taunt Gholdengo. We can avoid Thunder Wave. If they have Make It Rain, we're able to let them drop their special attack stat, get free D-Dances while we're behind that sub and make it work that way, which is very big. In general, this thing has been able to easily set up multiple D-Dances behind subs and just win the game. I do have to be a little cautious of, obviously, since I'm not that speed invested, that I need to be like +3 in order to outspeed a Choice Scarf Latios. +2, I believe, will still outspeed Choice Scarf Tarak. No, I don't think it will, actually. I don't remember the specific calc for the amount. However, we're still getting a lot of damage because of the Adamant Nature, and the defensive bulk goes a long way than just that. So the only things that can really check this Gyarados are if it's a defense boosting Quagsire in terms of Stockpile or Curse. I did face those, but once again that would still lose to Taunt, so I really don't expect that. Or if it's Encore Quagsire, because he can Encore me behind the Substitute, which would be tough. And then a bulky Terra Electric Brute Bonnet. I didn't face any in mocks. Everyone I faced did prefer to have the Terra Terrakion, which I think is better against me. So if we do face the Bonnet, I'm more than likely going to try and get Chip beforehand. If I'm not able just to do it with like Zamazenta after the Healing Wish and their Golden Go is gone, they might have to rely on close combat from Brute Bonnet or putting a Spore on Zamazenta in order to limit from sweeping the rest of their team. So that's something that can really benefit Gyarados there. But in general, this thing has been able to sweep through in a lot of my mocks, so I have some high hopes for it. And then lastly, we have our hazards, the Designated Lead, and Sandy Shocks. I know I've been leading off of Sandy Shocks a lot, but in this one specifically, it's really good with the with the booster energy, because I'm able to get immediate information on any potential Choice Scarf leads. And in general, Choice Scarf Terrakion would outspeed me, but it cannot kill me with Earthquake. So that's big there. And one thing I actually really like is that even if they bring Cyclozar, since Cyclozar is so frail, even if it's like max HP, more than likely going to be Assault Vest if it's brought, or especially defensive in some way, then Body Press is still going to 2-hit KO, even if they're max HP. So I'm able to threaten them out that way, get my hazards back up, work around it as necessary. So I think spikes are going to be very free and very stackable this game. I just have to keep in mind if they were to lead like Quagsire or Diancie. Obviously, I don't have removal, so it depends on like how much I want to deal with hazards on both sides. More than likely, it would just me getting up one single spike and then switching out into like Breloom and then click a button after. I debated having a Breloom lead to deal with those hazard stacking potential leads, but I wanted to get spikes of my own, specifically for Gyarados, Darkrai, and Zamazenta. They're just too good with spikes on the field. So that being said, I'm very confident in the offensive pressure that this team provides. I'm pretty sure I went undefeated in my mocks, or I might have lost one to unfortunate packs, as it happens from time to time. But I'm very confident in the build, and I think that we're going to be able to bounce back. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I'm going to be facing them shortly. So I hope you guys look forward to the battle tomorrow, and I'll see you then.